Okay, so today we're going to review the present perfect, the time reference or the connectors that gave us a better idea of the different forms of the present perfect. We already know the structure, but we have to be very aware when and how we use ever, never, already, and yet. So we're gonna start first with ever and never. Remember, one it's positive and one it's negative. Never it's like kind of saying negative form about something that never happened. Well, something didn't happen. Plus the
So,
present perfect, plus the present perfect, or the past simple. We can make some similarities on the sentences that we use. So the present perfect is often used with the words ever and never to talk about general life experience. So ever, we are referring to any time. Have you ever worked abroad? I have never been to South America. So looking at these two examples, in all your life up to now. So that means that you're going to continue living and maybe in the future, you want to work abroad. Abroad means that you go to work, in this case, to another country that is not yours and have this experience. So that's why we're talking about, once again, the experience. Ever, we are referring once again to any time. Now, here, ever, it is used in a question. Have you ever? So ever has to go before the verb. Remember this verb, it's in past participle. Then, sorry. The present perfect with ever, it is often followed by the simple past, depending. We use the past simple to give more information about a completed action when referring to a specific time or context. Have you ever been to Hong Kong? So once again, remember we have to start with the auxiliary always when we make a question. Always the subject, second place. And then in this case, we have to use ever before the past participle, been. Yes, I have. You have two options. Yes, I have as a short answer. I worked there when I was in Coopers and Librand. So here, once again, we can use also, this is optional, when you use simple past because it's already a completed action. It's done. You're not, you have the experience. Use the activity here, it's completed once again. Already and yet. Already and yet. The present perfect, it is often used with already and yet. They're getting on well with the new building. They have already modernized the warehouse, but they haven't decorated the reception area yet. So let's analyze this sentence. We're talking about a building, a reconstruction. So the first sentence, they are getting on well with the new building. So that's a continuous activity. When you get on well means that you have a good relationship or like friendly relationships. So they are getting on well with the new building. This is present continuous. Here we have the participle, I'm sorry, the perfect, present perfect. They have already modernized the warehouse. Warehouse are all the things that you keep it safe, like your, I don't know, equipment of all kinds. So they have already modernized. So that means in this already sentence, it's an activity that just, well, first of all, it's a positive idea, but it means as well that it's something that happened before you expected, before, yeah, before you were planning, something came up first or before. So that's like a good impression. Like when you do something, you do any kind of things quickly. So that means when you use already. So that means that they done it actually. Then, but they haven't decorated the reception area yet. So yet sometimes we have this word when we have negative statements or when we make questions. So we have this yet only for, normally for these two options. So in this case, it's talking about an action that hasn't happened up to now. It's like unmoved, with no movement, nothing realized, nothing made. So in this case, we are talking about an activity that hasn't done or hasn't been completed. It's still thinking. It's still thinking. They will do it, but it hasn't happened yet. So in this sentence, once again, I haven't decorated the reception. That means they have the intention because they move to a new house, but let's see how it's gonna end. The expectation is that they are going to complete the decoration, but not yet, not at the moment. All right. So as I said, it's basically already positive sentence. It often indicates that something has taken place slightly earlier than expected. Notice its position is the sentence between the auxiliary and the verb. She has already shown me the figures. So in this case, she has already shown me the figures. Not, she has shown me already. So important, the already has to go before the action. She has already shown me the figures. Once again, this one goes after, already goes before. Yet, the word yet is used in questions and negative. Here, expect that an action will take place if it has not happened up to now. So it's something that you could measure it in time before, but it hasn't been completed. Notice the position of yet and not yet. This is an incorrect form. Have you talked yet to Peter? This is incorrect. The correct form it is, have you talked to Peter yet? I repeat, have you talked to Peter yet? So once again, yet is gonna go at the end because remember, it's a question that you want to know if that activity has been done, has been completed. The incorrect way, don't do it. I haven't talked yet to him. No, the correct way is I haven't talked to him yet. So that means that she has intentions or he has intention of talking, but not yet. Right. So we already checked already and yet. Already and yet. Okay. In the next point, finished and unfinished periods of time. The present perfect is often used with words and phrases indicating periods of time that have not finished yet. Common examples are today, this morning, this month, this year, so far, to date, over the last few weeks, up to now, recently, etc. This month, we have received a lot of complaints about late deliveries. So in this case, analyzing the sentence, the month has not finished and they may be, and there may be more complaints because maybe like now we are on the 27th. We still haven't finished the month. That's how we need to use in unfinished periods of time. If we're speaking after one of these periods, we use the past simple. So that means if it's completed, we use past simple. Because, like it says, referring to a period of time that has finished. The activity is completed, finished. All right, let's compare. Have you seen John this morning? It is now 11:15 in the morning. The morning has not finished. So that means that they could be before midday, before 12. Now, looking at the second question with the present simple, did you see John this morning? It is now 2:30 in the afternoon. The morning has finished. So, important. Here is very clear what's the difference. When it's like a time lapse that it's somehow still in the present, but it's an activity that, like it says, is unfinished or it's finished. All right. So this is the first. Now we're going to check and continue the other part of the time references. All right. So continue with the present perfect and the words we use when we want to make a different directions of time. We use then, for, and since. So let's analyze how and when we use these words. Now, we have stative verbs. The stative verbs are the verbs that doesn't have a lot of action. They're actions, but they don't have a lot of movement. We're gonna see some examples. So stative verbs plus for and since could be any of those two. The present perfect, it is often used with for and since and the stated verbs to talk about things that began in the past and have continued up to now. I have known about the takeover bid for several weeks, and I know now. So once again, several weeks, I don't know now, several weeks, we talk about a quantity of weeks, but here the difference is we're talking about a quantity of time. So when we use for, we talk about a quantity of time. In this case, it's saying like several, it's similar to say some. Okay. Then, next one. She has owned shares in GM since she started work there. In this case, she owns them now, still since she got it. So it's an activity, since it's an activity that happened in the past and is still in the present, is still ongoing. That means that it's still. Then sometimes we can get some confusions with for and since. We use for to talk about the duration of periods of time. Once again, duration of time, quantity. And since about when a period started. This is very important. Here, We could use dates. We can use months. We can use hours, like the numbers. Since 5 o'clock. We have started classes since 11 o'clock. Yes? So we talk about, once again, an activity that happened before and still going. Right. So let's look at this timeline. Here we have the present, now, future, and past. Now, when we use since, it's referring, for example, since 7 o'clock in the morning, I have eaten, no, let me change the verb. Since 7 in the morning, I have organized my day. I have organized my schedule or my day. So that means that it's 11 and I'm still working on some schedules. So that could be one example. Now remember, the activity is still unfinished. I'm still planning. Now the difference, in the other hand, when we use for, once again, quantity. How many? 3 hours. How many? 7 days. How many? 2 months, 2 years, 3 years ago, etc. So, like it says in the examples below, for we have here, as long as you know that we have normally numbers, but also we can talk about for a long time, referring to general ideas, for a long time, for a little time. He has gone for a little time, for example. Okay. Since we also talk about dates when they started, we are more specific with dates actually, but not necessarily. Since 10:15, for example, since 10:15, I have been running with my activities, for example. So we use dates, we use times, we use months, we use hours, but we don't refer to quantity. We don't say 1, 2, 3 days ago, nothing like that. It's two different things. They have different, how could I say, they have different intention when you want to use them. When you want to be more specific, I have been married since 2008. Not me, but it's just an example, maybe a married person. And I'm still married, so I have been married since 2008. Now, if I say this example, I have been married since 2008. How many years is up to now, Karen?
2008.
14, right?
Yes, 14.
So if I want to use 14 is a quantity, yes or no?
Yes, it's quantity.
Can you use this expression using the quantity word?
Um,
The same example of married. Imagine you are married.
okay. I have married since,
Me faltó, I'm missing the participle, sorry.
yes. I have married.
Look,
I have been married since
no, I want you to talk about
For
quantity.
quantity.
Or,
Yes, yes, for 14 years.
very good, excellent.
Okay.
So thank you, Karen. So in this
Okay.
case, once again, for it's when we talk about quantity. I'm talking about numbers. I can talk about months, days, hours, centuries, but remember we normally are referring to quantity. Now, let's continue on this second part. When we talk about once again quantity, we also use how long. And let's see how we can answer with these two words that we just reviewed. To ask questions about periods of time up to the present, we use how long. Once again, up to the present. The present perfect. How long have you been in England? So here, I have been here since August for 6 months. So here the question is in the present, but it's talking about a quantity of time. How long have you been here in England? That means he is still in England. So I have been here since August for 6 months. So here it's adding more information about the quantity of time that he is planning to stay in England. Next, just be careful with some common mistakes. We do not use the present simple tense with for and since to talk about something that began in the past and has gone up to the present. It's incorrect to say, I am here, because we are using present simple and it's impossible
Present
to
simple,
present
yes.
simple. We have to use the correct structure. It's not correct to say I am here since December. We use I have been here since December. All right.
Okay. Yes.
So important to respect. Don't forget we are having more elements to the grammar form. All right, then the negatives. We can use the present perfect negative to talk about the amount of time that has passed between now and the last time something happened. Once again, between now and the last time that something happened. We haven't had any large orders from them for several months. So here is the amount of time that passed between in this time, okay, until the recent one. We haven't had any large orders from them for several months. So here we have negative statements. I am not sure if the trip is going well. I haven't heard from him since Monday. Once again, we are talking about a negative form, just using haven't. And remember, the verbs should be in the past participle. Okay. In the last part, remember, these are also to complete actions over a period of time. So here we have also time references. If we talk about a completed action, particularly if we give details about how much, how many, etc., we can use the present perfect and since, but not for. We can also use other phrases of duration, such as to date, recently, over the past 5 years, or past 5 months, or whatever you want to use. etc. The action itself is finished, but the period of time extends right up to the present. We have opened 6 new branches since July. So here, it started in July, still ongoing. So once again, we usually use these words when we want to talk about words, expressions, actions that the activity has happened. Okay, so
Okay.
checking and looking more information about this time reference, I'm going to ask you if you have any question. We have to review once again this explanation, take your notes if in case you need them. All right.